Hi, and welcome to week 4, Planning for Language. This week, we are going to dive into an important topic as we think about what it means to intentionally integrate content and language teaching so that our students can be successful in not only learning the content that we want them to know, the grade level content, but also acquiring English as a new language or whatever the language of instruction is in your classroom. And so we're going to be working through some different readings and viewings as a way to support you in getting some tools so that you feel confident in planning for language, both in the unit plan you're working on for this course, but also in your classroom or in your future classroom. To begin, we kind of situate this idea, which frames really our whole course, of what it means to bring content and language together in a meaningful way through instruction. And so as you're reading, I want you to think about all of the ways that students are engaging with content and language. So thinking about the different content areas or disciplines that students are learning at school, the different domains of language that we are asking them to use, speaking, listening, reading, and writing, and of course, the different purposes for language use at school. So students asked to persuade, to narrate, to explain, to inform. So all of the ways students encounter language and are asked to use language across the school day. And so we're going to begin with chapter 5 from the co-planning text, because I think that does a really nice job of situating how to create integrated language and literacy rich environments for students. And you'll see many examples and many resources in that chapter that will help you as you're thinking about how to plan for language in your instruction. From there, we'll go back in the book a bit to look at chapter 3, which offers a more kind of big picture view of data-informed planning. And I confess, anytime I see where it's like data-informed and evidence-based, part of me kind of cringes internally or externally. But what I appreciate about this is they really emphasize that it's not about accountability and high-stakes assessment, but it's about how do we use data, formative data, information about our students that we've gathered in different ways, really purposefully as we're planning. And I want you to keep that in mind as you're planning your own instruction and your unit plan. And especially, I think it connects to last week when we're thinking about culturally responsive and linguistically responsive planning. You know, we're keeping students at the center and we're gathering information about our learners and what they can do so that we can, intentionally design meaningful instruction for them that supports both their content and language learning. Then from there, we get back into the weeds of planning for language. So we'll begin with a few overview videos that situate the why. Why should we plan for both content and language learning before we dive into the how. Like how do we actually write these objectives? What do they look like? And I provide some resources. I've been studying this topic and thinking about this topic for many years. So I share, some different ideas that I've developed in that process. Of course, there are many ways to write language objectives. So I encourage you to find the way of using them and writing them that works best for you and that you will actually use in your classroom. But I give you some models and some templates that you can use to get you started. And then from there, we talk a little bit about content and language standards, because of course, the language objectives we're planning should be connected to the language standards that we want students to be able to achieve at our grade level standards tied to their, what their own, where they're developing in their language proficiency. The WIDA resource, the WIDA ELD Standards Framework resource from 2020 is a wonderful tool for planning language objectives and for thinking about intentional content language integration. So we are going to be reading that for this week. You don't have to read the entire document. It's quite long, but do read the overview so you have a sense for what this document is. And then pick a content area and review the standards for that grade level or that content area so that you can kind of understand if you haven't worked with this document before, and even if you have, it's a helpful review, how you might use this to inform your planning. All right, and then after that, we move into discussing and applying. So for your discussion forum this week, you will be reflecting on some of your learning from the readings, but you're also going to post the objectives that you think you might use for your unit. So make sure you work on that a little bit earlier so that you have that ready to go for Sunday. And then your responses for Tuesday, of course, and then also for Tuesday, you want to have all of the sections that are highlighted in blue in your unit plan ready to go. So that will include the standards that are framing your unit, the objectives that you've written for your unit, and a summative assessment, how you're thinking about evaluating student learning, and the essential language that you might focus on, which should include some vocabulary, but also expand beyond vocabulary, the language that students need to be successful in the unit and that you want them to learn in the unit. Um, and one other note, as you're thinking about language objectives, it's good to think across all of the domains. You don't need to write 20 language objectives. So try to focus on, for both content and language objectives, what are kind of the main objectives you'll be working toward across the whole unit when it comes to content and when it comes to language. And I look forward to seeing your unit plans at this stage. I'm planning to dive in and give you some feedback on where you are. So if you have questions, always feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I'll be jumping into those and giving you some feedback. Have a great week.